Thanks for joining us. My name is Christy McGackran. I'm a program manager at McMaster Continuing Education, and I'm here today with Stephanie Kirsta, co-founder of Hoame Digital, the world's first virtual meditation studio. And Hoame is also our partner in the Mindfulness of Modern Society program. For our time together today, I'll give you a brief overview of the program, and then I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie to talk about ways that we can all incorporate mindfulness into our daily routines. The Mindfulness of Modern Society program is designed to provide a comprehensive overview of the history and origins of mindfulness, the foundational philosophies of mindfulness, and the proven scientific benefits of mindful practice. Each course will explore the modern and clinical applications of the ancient practice, the current shift into living more mindfully, and how we can apply these learnings into our personal and professional lives. We offer 2 certificates of completion. Completion of any 3 of the 5 courses earns the fundamental of mindfulness, and completion of all 5 of the courses earns the advanced principles and practice of mindfulness. Or if you're not working towards a certificate of completion, you're welcome to mix and match however you wish, or just take 1 or 2 courses for your own interest. This is an online program. The modules include experiential practice, group discussions, videos, resources, and practical applications to guide you in developing your mindful self. It's a non-credit personal and professional development program. Formal academic written papers are not required, but you will be assessed through formats such as quizzes, group discussions, and activities. There's no application needed. Register directly through our website for the courses. Our mindfulness program is an excellent enhancement to an existing education, professional experience, or interest. Mindfulness has quickly become a desirable skill set for many groups of professionals in healthcare, community and social services, education, corporate wellness programs, and of course for our own personal wellness. It can also be used to enhance existing education in areas such as nursing, social work, teaching, HR, and counseling. The program is a unique partnership between McMaster Continuing Education and the world's first virtual meditation studio, Hoame Digital. Hoame's founders, Stephanie Kirsta and Carolyn Plater, are mental health clinicians and educators. We've partnered together to bring you courses developed and taught by professionals in the field of mindfulness and meditation. And now, I'll hand it over to Stephanie to tell us more about using mindfulness to help us create balance in our lives. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, Christy. Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. I think Monday is probably a good time for this topic because today we're going to be talking about stress and then also how we can use mindfulness and the practice of mindfulness and different applications of mindfulness to reduce our overall stress, workplace stress, personal stress, all the stress that we feel, and also just to kind of support our mental health. I always like to tell my clients, what are the little buckets of stress that we have? And so if we think about stress, it's always helpful to know what we're dealing with. I think we all know what stress means. I think we're all looking for ways to, decrease our stress. But if we look at what stress is, it really is a physiological response. So it's the reaction that people have when presented with demands and pressures that are not matched to their knowledge and abilities and which challenge their ability to cope. So really what it is the way that our body, really psychological and physiological, the way our body and our brain react to increased demands and pressures. And it's when our body and our brain feel that we don't have the coping skills. We don't have, the skills needed to be able to cope with these, increased demands, increased pressures, or, really significant upsets in our life. What's interesting to note is that stress itself is not a disease, but it has been implicated in, many different illnesses. So stress is not a disease itself, but if we look at stress being a cause for something, stress has actually been linked to every single disease out there. Stress is one of the risk factors. So it's not a disease itself, but it can be a cause, or it can be a risk factor for many of the other diseases that we have on hand. One of the most well-known examples of physiological stress is the fight or flight response. And so really what this is when our brain perceives an event or situation as potentially threatening, what it does is it goes into fight. So kind of like fight the impending threat, or flight, which is run away. Another one that we don't talk about as much is the freeze response. And the freeze response is really just kind of like essentially when we freeze, we do nothing and we hope the impending threat goes away. I always, in my clinical practice, I'm a psychotherapist. In my clinical practice, but I'll always, the example I always use is, back in the day, back when we were, cave people, if a bear would come up to us, if a bear would come into our cave, our brain would go danger, danger, danger. There's an absolute threat to our survival. And so our body, what it does is it gets us ready to fight. It gets us ready to run away, or we'll also see the freeze response, which is kind of when you freeze, you can't move, you can't do anything. We now don't need to fight bears off as much anymore, but really what we're doing is we're fighting off, email bears and boss bears and friend bears and health bears and mortgage bears and all those other bears. And so our brain and our body are still having the same response. And so our body, it's stress. Kind of the stress response was really supposed to be productive. It's supposed to help us with survival. But what's happened is our brain and our body hasn't met our evolutionary demands quite yet. And so we're still experiencing those fight or flight responses. Why it's important to know about this, like I said before, stress is contributory to mental and physical illness. It can exacerbate pre-existing pathology. So if we already have, any illnesses or chronic diseases or mental health issues, stress can definitely exacerbate or bring that on. We know people who can manage their stress well do report to be happier. So do report higher levels of resilience. And then we know that high levels of resilience and positive emotions are health promoting. So we'll see really strong immunity, cardiovascular health, good impact on sleep. And that sleep in itself is really just as coping with stress itself is a really good protective factor. So it helps us to facilitate healthy behaviors, reduce the risk of poor coping strategies that sometimes we may fall into, such as excessive drinking, smoking, or drug use. So by and large, kind of all in all, stress management is really, it's a health prevention kind of technique that we want to be trying to use. So now that we know what stress is, we want to know about what helps us to manage stress. And so really the first thing we want to do is kind of what we did in that poll number 2. We want to identify and understand the stressors that we have. So we really want to know kind of what are those different buckets of stress that we're experiencing in our life? What are those different stressors? And then it helps us to just kind of know, something that I'll do with my clients quite often, an exercise, is we'll write down all the things that they're worried about, all the things that they're stressed out about. Because what that does is it helps us to see, so like what are those kind of buckets of stress that we're feeling, because then that helps us to know kind of, okay, what do we do with that, right? So we can't act without information. And so it is helpful for us to understand and identify some of those stressors that we have. We want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest system. So we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic is that kind of alert and awake. It's when we're, kind of taking on things, having conversations, repeating, kind of go, 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 go. The parasympathetic response is that rest and digest. So, it's that state that we get into when we're, resting in bed before we go to bed. If you've ever had a massage and you kind of get really kind of calm and relaxed, and you kind of feel like you're not sleeping, but you're not awake, you're kind of in this like really nice cozy zone. That's parasympathetic nervous system. So we want to be doing things that help us, slip into that rest and digest state. So we're going to be talking about a lot of the things, everything that we're going to be talking about today is essentially what we can do to slip into that parasympathetic response. That is when, our body can repair itself with stress. That's the way that we can really cope with a lot of stress, but it helps our body to kind of down-regulate and discharge some of the cortisol and adrenaline that comes from being in a hyper kind of chronic stress state. Exercising regularly is also a really good one, especially cardiovascular exercise for stress, Because if you think about it, when we're stressed, our adrenals, which are our adrenal glands that just kind of sit on our kidneys, they secrete cortisol and adrenaline. And that's what helps us go. That's what helps us respond to things. That's what helps us to, fight off the bear or run away from the bear. But an excess of, cortisol and adrenaline, what that does is it keeps us in this kind of hyper stressed state or this chronic stress state. So when we exercise, and that's why I say cardiovascular exercise, that helps us to discharge some of that cortisol and adrenaline. It helps our body to drain itself from some of that. And that can help to, decrease some of the stress. I would say kind of like drain the tub of stress that we're feeling. Practicing good sleep hygiene is another really good one. So I could do an entire talk on sleep. I'm a sleep therapist. I'm a sleep specialist. So I can get kind of caught up with talking about sleep. But essentially, if I could have three rules for good sleep hygiene would be trying to go to bed and wake up roughly around the same time. Now, I know not everyone can do that, but trying to within, 1 to 2 hours. Our bodies are like machines. Our bodies really, really love and thrive on routine. So being able to kind of set those bedtime and wake up hours are really, really good. It helps us our body starts to do the things to prepare itself to fall asleep. I would say the other thing, and it's really easy right now, is as soon as you wake up in the morning, you want to try and expose yourself to natural light. So if you have a backyard, go in your backyard. If you have a balcony, go outside on your balcony. Couple minutes, just get some sunshine, on your body, on your skin, in your eyes. What that does, as the first thing in the morning, what that does is it resets our circadian rhythm. So it tells our body, okay, I'm not sleeping anymore. It's time to wake up. Same thing at nighttime. So at nighttime, about an hour before you go to bed, you want to minimize as much light as you can have. So that's where those rules of trying to minimize blue light, so the light that our electronics emit, trying to minimize that for a couple hours before bed. I'm a realist. I say if you can do an hour, that would be amazing. Making sure that your house, dim the lights in your house, but an hour before bed, again, tells our body, okay, we're going to get ready to sleep, primes our body to fall asleep. So like I said, wake up and go to bed at the same time. Light in the morning, darkness at night, and then a cold bedroom is the best bedroom. It's chilly. When you look at the literature for sleep, it's about 16 to 19 degrees Celsius. So it's pretty chilly to fall asleep. But again, if you think about it, historically, from an evolutionary perspective, we slept in caves. And so cold and dark. So, even if you can't get to 16 or 19, I can't even do that. I keep my house at 19.5 at night and it's chilly. But, trying to even just bring it down a degree is also really helpful, just to kind of help you fall asleep. Mindfulness and meditation, we know really mindfulness and meditation are two of the great tools that we have to support stress response. There's been tons of literature that supports the impact of meditation and mindfulness for stress, for anxiety, for depression, for bipolar disorder, increased immunity response. We always like to say, kind of at home, what we talk about is we say that meditation and mindfulness, if we look at the documented kind of scientific literature, there's been benefits linked from the top of our heads to the tips of our toes and everything in between. So there's a lot of literature supporting mindfulness and meditation for decreasing stress, anxiety, all of it. Healthy communication is also good because being able to practice, being able to share kind of how we're feeling, talk about how we're feeling, creating boundaries with people, also a really great one to manage stress, coping strategies, and self-care, which kind of encompass a lot of this as well. Like I said before, with yoga, meditation, mindfulness, there's a couple things here. So mindfulness is a practice of kind of purposefully paying attention. So just, being fully present and fully aware in the activity that you're doing, kind of in the present moment. Meditation is kind of the more seated formal practice. Oftentimes can be guided, but it doesn't always have to be. But what it is kind of like that guided, seated formal practice of mindfulness. And then yoga, what it does is combines exercise, meditation, and kind of breath work mindfulness. So it kind of layers multiple strategies together. Different mindful activities that you can incorporate into your day. So mindfulness is always, I would say it's a great first start to bring little mindful moments into our day. And what it does is we just kind of take a little bit of time, a couple minutes in our day to do something mindfully. So I'll talk about this again later, but a couple examples of this would like your morning coffee. So take your first coffee or your morning coffee, say, I'm going to drink this mindfully today. And so what I do is, try and have some silence, try and have about 3 minutes to yourself or 5 minutes to yourself. And what you want to do is you want to have your coffee and you want to look, okay, what does the coffee look like? What color is the coffee? What does the coffee smell like? How does it feel in your hand? What does it taste like? Just really start to be present in fully drinking that cup of coffee, fully experiencing that cup of coffee. You can do the same thing walking, right? So again, if you go on your walk, again, exercise is really, really good for decreasing stress. It's a cardiovascular activity. But let's say you take your walk and you say, okay, the last couple of minutes of my walk, I'm going to be mindful in this walk. So, turn off whatever you're listening to, stop talking to the person if you're talking to someone. And I want you to know, okay, what do you see? What are the colors of the trees? What are the colors? It's a beautiful time to walk mindfully right now. What are the colors of the different flowers that you're noticing? What do you smell? How do the rustles of the leaves sound? What about how does your foot feel when it's hitting the pavement? So really just trying to really fully experience all aspects, all sights and sounds and senses that you're experiencing in that moment, because in that moment you're then in the present moment. You're fully experiencing what you're currently doing in that moment. Gazing outside is another really easy one. Literally just look out the window and do the exact same thing that I just explained. You can have a mindful conversation with someone where, again, taking out all distractions, trying not to think about your next response to what that person is saying as you're fully listening, fully engaged in that conversation with them. And again, just like mindful coffee drinking, you can mindfully eat. So experiencing kind of all the senses while you eat, for the first couple minutes of your dinner or your breakfast or your lunch, just kind of taking the time. How many of us are, eating food while we're, on a Zoom call or in between things, taking a couple moments to turn off the laptop, turn off the radio, turn over the cell phone, and really just engage with the meal that you're having. All of those little things are great little snippets of mindfulness where we're not in the present moment, and when we are in the present moment and our brain's not going 100 miles an hour, we're just really fully immersed in our present moment. And that's the practice of mindfulness. Self-care is also a really great tool to support stress reduction. And self-care is really just nurturing ourselves, right? So it's taking some time to do an activity that helps us to feel our best. It's essentially coping skills, right? It's just nourishing ourselves. We hear about self-care a lot. I actually personally don't love the term self-care. And I was giving a talk once, and one of the participants said they think about it. I think it was actually one of the participants in our mindfulness program. They said they think of self-care as mental hygiene. And I love that, because if you think about it, physical hygiene, we don't think twice. We don't feel guilty. We don't think twice about brushing our teeth or taking our daily shower. And we shouldn't think twice or feel guilty about doing things for our own mental hygiene. So what are the things that help keep your mind well? What are the things that help you to feel your best, to help you to discharge stress at the end of the day? And I also like to think about the different dimensions of self-care. So if you look at those, it's physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological, relationship, and workplace self-care. And so what does that look like for you? What do you feel you need to show up your best, to be your best, to nourish yourself, to recharge yourself in these different aspects of your life? And so I think I personally find, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, that thinking about it as hygiene kind of makes it more real. It's easier to think about it, and it feels like something that's less of a nice to have and something that's more of a, something I should do, something that's healthy for me. It's a health promoting activity. So I find that mental shift can kind of be helpful. And in that vein as well, what I like to talk about is stacking. So it's one of these hacks that we use at home. And we like to call it the stacking hack. And really what it does is it's what we can do to incorporate as many resilience boosting, stress reduction strategies in a short period of time. As humans, we are always short on time. And so stacking is just using combinations of different wellness strategies to maximize the benefits. So for those of us who have minimal time for wellness and self-care, it helps us to just, kind of get the biggest bang for our buck. So this is absolutely not an exhaustive list, but if we look at it, it's just trying to come up with trying to combine as many as possible. So if we think about it, then I would say like, okay, so maybe I'm going to go on a walk. So I'll do exercise. I'll bring a friend. We will walk mindfully for, the last 5 minutes, and we will laugh together. So those are four things that have been shown to decrease stress that work together that I can do in, kind of my hour-long walk. So I encourage you to kind of come up with your own stack. What is a stack that you could do, or how could you make a stack that has as many, stress busting strategies as possible? So different practices to implement in your day for stress. I'm going to talk about a couple of them. So there's breathwork practices, and breathwork is starting to have a lot of literature surrounding it. And really it's using our breath to tell our body that it's time to calm down. So it's, again, using our breath to down regulate our stress response. I use these a lot for panic attack treatment for my clients. I use these a lot for when my clients are feeling overly stressed. We use this a lot during exam time because I work with a lot of secondary school students. And so two that I particularly like, and I invite you to kind of try it out with me, is 4-7-8 breathing. And so what you would do with that is you would breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You would hold for 7 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then a slow exhale for 8 seconds through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So try a couple of those, just counting in for 4 through your nose, hold for 7, out for 8. And try some of that, and I'll explain why it works. So why 4-7-8 breathing works is you'll note that the exhalation is double the length of the inhalation. And oftentimes when we're feeling stressed or anxious, people say, breathe deeply, breathe deeply. And it actually works really well. Breathwork works really well. But when we're in that hyper stress state or that hyper anxious state, we're just kind of breathing all around, right? There's no rhyme or reason to it. And so having that counted breath, number one, brings our attention to what we're doing. So it brings our attention off the thing that we're worried about, off the thing that we're stressed about, and onto counting our breath practice. What it also does is, if we think about that fight or flight or freeze response, when we have that fight or flight response, we're breathing into the first third of our lung. So our breathing gets shallow because we need to get ready. All the blood is going to our arms and our legs to run away or to fight back. And so by having that really long exhalation, it taps into that parasympathetic response, and it tells our body, our body tells our brain, hey brain, there's no threat here. We don't have to worry. We're good. Kind of false alarm kind of thing. So that's a really effective one. Box breathing is another one. I love this one because it's kind of easy. So you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And why I like this one is I'll oftentimes encourage people to draw a box on your hand while you're doing it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, out, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or another one that I love, and I again encourage and invite you to try this, is trace your hands. So in for 4, as you go up your finger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, hold for 4 at the tip, 2, 3, 4, out for 4 as you go down, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold for 4 as you get to this section, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then trace your hand. So again, it brings another element of mindfulness into that breathing. So those are great practices and easy ones that we can implement anytime in our day. I always tell everyone I don't love flying, but I force myself to, and I do a lot of box breathing on an airplane. Grounding exercises are also a really great one. So this is when we're engaging all of our senses. So again, it's a mindfulness practice that helps us kind of just reset. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 would be, there's 2 ways of doing this. You could say to yourself, okay, what are 5 things that I see right now? And in your mind, you're naming the 5 things that you're seeing. What are 4 things you're hearing? What are 3 things that you are feeling? What are 2 things that you are smelling? And what is 1 thing that you're tasting? So you can do that. If you want to hit it up a notch, you could say 5 things you hear, 5 things you see, 5 things you smell. Then go to the 4 things you hear, see, smell, all the way down to the 1. What's helpful about that one is when we're looking for something to smell, we're breathing. We're also in our present moment, and we're redirecting our focus. We're redirecting our mind onto something else. Different mindful moments and check-ins are also really helpful. So like I said before, the mindful walk, the mindful gaze. Another other one that I really love for yourself is a bit of a gratitude countdown. And so this is a lovely, beautiful practice that you could do with somebody else. If you have kids love to do this one. And what you would do is you would say, so you could do it for yourself where you just kind of, count down from whatever number. You can count down from 5 and say, okay, so 5, what's 1 thing I'm grateful for? 4, another thing I'm grateful for. 3, another thing, 2 and 1. Or you can go from 10, but why it's fun to do with a partner or with kids is you would count down from 10. So one person counts down. So one person would say 10 and the other person would say 1 thing they're grateful for. Then 9, the other person would say 1 thing they're grateful for. And then you switch. And then you've both identified 20 things that are both making you feel really good and loved and, grateful in that moment. So a lovely one to do with people. And again, helps us connect with our current gratitude. And then the last thing is our formal meditation practice. And so what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to share a video. So one of the practices that we do in the Origins and Philosophies of Mindfulness course, we have Colette, who's one of the instructors for us, and she's going to be walking us through a body scan. And so this is the first kind of, again, mindful meditation practice where you'll see what this formal meditation practice looks like. And so I'll pull that up. Okay, so it's about 13 minutes and enjoy this practice.
So wherever you are, you can begin to just close the eyes and just beginning to soften the jaw and soften your shoulders. Now if you're in a chair, just starting to settle in here, doing last movements, having the feet fully rooted and grounded into the floor. And right away noticing where your body is held by the chair or by the floor. Sensing those points of contact, the back. And just feeling a little bit more length into your entire body. And as you begin here, you begin to go more inward. Beginning to visualize yourself here. the position that you're in. And just noticing how it feels to be in this position. Noticing how your body feels. And just starting to connect with your natural breathing. So just noticing any sensation of the breath, perhaps how the belly rises and falls. How the ribs just expand and contract. Maybe how the shoulders rise and fall. Without forcing anything, you're just following and noticing your natural breath. Knowing that you can return back to your breathing anytime you need to. I'm going to begin to focus on different areas in the body and just connecting to any sensations that you might feel or arise. And this can be pain, it can be somewhere that feels surprisingly good today. Can be any pulsing, throbbing, heat, coolness, dryness, or anything else that you may notice. So just beginning to bring your attention to your feet. Just beginning to bring the attention to your right big toe. Any sensation in the right toe. Perhaps moving to the second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, and kindly bringing your attention to the entire right foot. Right heel, top of the foot, sole of your right foot, just bringing your attention to your left foot. Starting with your left big toe. Noticing any sensations in the left big toe. Moving the attention now to second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe. Bringing the attention to left heel, top of the foot, sole of the left foot, noticing any other sensations you feel in the left foot. Moving your awareness up the legs, calves, shins, lower legs, back of the knees, top of the knees, moving up to the upper legs, hips, tailbone, moving up to the lower belly, lower back, lower chest, upper chest, shoulders, kindly bringing your attention to your right arm, the upper arm, lower arm, right hand, focusing on the entire right arm. Bringing your attention to the left arm. Upper left arm. Lower left arm. Left hand. Noticing the entire left arm. Now bringing your attention to your head. Your face. The neck, back of the head. Scanning all the way to the top of the head. And just scanning your entire body and going over anywhere you feel that is coming up into your attention. Connecting to any sensation you feel in your body. And just noticing without the need to change or control anything about what you notice or experience in this moment. And just starting to sense those points of contact where your body is held by the chair or the floor. Starting to deepen your breath. And when you're ready, you can take tiny little movement back into the body. When you're ready, beginning to open the eyes when you're ready.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed all the information on stress. I hope you're feeling motivated to practice some different stress busting techniques, whether it be mindfulness, exercise, maybe a stack that you've come up with. Thank you so much, everyone.